At approximately 1:55 a.m. on December 9, 2001, Michael Peterson pulled into the driveway of his stately Victorian home in Charlotte, North Carolina, returning from a weekly meeting of his fellow novelists and friends. The night was unusually cold for early December, and the soft rumble of his Mercedes engine faded into an eerie silence as he crossed the threshold. Inside, the only illumination came from a single lamp in the living room, casting long shadows across the plush carpet that had felt so warm under his fingertips just days before. Peterson set his briefcase on the hallway console, his mind still abuzz with literary debates and laughter from the book club. He called out to his wife, Kathleen, "I'm home." But the expected response, her soft greeting, did not come. Concern flickered across his face as he noticed the front door slightly ajar, a sliver of hallway light seeping onto the foyer rug. He stepped forward, hand hesitating on the doorknob that led to the grand staircase. The comforting scent of sandalwood and ash lingered in the air, yet a chill ran down his spine. As he ascended the carpeted steps, his footsteps muffled by the thick runner, he noticed dark spots below him. His brow furrowed as he counted the drops, at least a dozen, each approximately the size of a nickel, trailing up 3 steps. By the time he reached the landing, the pattern thickened, a spiraling arc of crimson that led him to the intermediate platform where Kathleen lay motionless, her long blonde hair fanned across the wood floor, her silk nightgown torn. His breath caught in his throat. Seconds felt like hours. Peterson knelt beside her, gently surveying her pale face and the jagged bruise blooming on her right temple. He touched her wrist. No pulse. Panic surged. Adrenaline overtook him, and he stumbled backward, hands shaking. He dialed 911 with trembling fingers. His voice, usually calm and measured, fractured into urgent pleas. "My wife. She's fallen down the stairs. I need help. Please hurry." While he spoke, Michael rose and scanned the scene for clues. The absence of broken glass suggested she hadn't tumbled through a window. The railing remained intact, no splintered wood to suggest a violent slide. He knelt again, gently positioning her arm to check for any visible wounds beyond the obvious. Then came the dispatcher's calm instructions. "Apply pressure to bleeding. Do not move her." He tore a hand towel from a nearby rack and pressed it against her temple, the cloth quickly darkening as blood seeped through. Minutes later, the wail of sirens pierced the night. EMTs flooded the foyer, expertly relaying his account to arriving officers. They worked quickly, securing the scene and moving Kathleen onto a stretcher with deliberate care. As they lifted her, her nightgown caught on the banister, tearing further, leaving fabric behind like clues in a novel's opening chapter. Michael followed, wide-eyed, as they loaded her into the ambulance, his face illuminated by its flashing red lights. Behind them, detectives and crime scene technicians began their meticulous work. Officer Davis marked the bloodstains with numbered cones, photographing each droplet's location. A medical examiner's assistant noted that the pattern of spatter, circular, uneven, suggested low-velocity impact rather than a simple fall. Peterson observed from the edge of the foyer, his throat tight, mind racing with questions. Was it an accident? A medical emergency? He had no explanation for the pattern's irregularities. The ambulance pulled away, its taillights dissolving into the dark street. Michael stood alone in the now silent house, the grand staircase looming like a silent judge. He ran a hand through his hair, trying to quell the rising tide of fear. He called his eldest daughter, Megan, who was staying at a friend's nearby. Her frantic voice crackled through the phone. "What happened, Daddy?" And he could only whisper, "I don't know." Within the hour, detectives returned to question him. They asked the routine, "When did you last see her? What did you hear?" He recounted the book club meeting, the drive home, the initial discovery. Yet even as he spoke, they noted his shifting gaze, his pauses before each answer, as if searching for a narrative that fit the scene. His hands trembled as he gestured toward the staircase, describing the pattern of drops. As dawn approached, forensic teams collected blood samples, carpet fibers, and photograph after photograph. The plush runner, once a symbol of domestic comfort, was now an exhibit. The detective in charge, clad in latex gloves, murmured, "This doesn't look like an accidental fall." Peterson, standing nearby, felt the weight of those words settle over him like a shroud. By early morning, the investigation had only just begun, but the first acts of this grim story were already laid bare. A husband's urgent 911 call, a lone figure in a shattered household, and a staircase that held more questions than answers. In those initial hours, the foundation was set for a case that would pit forensic science against human tragedy and force a community to confront the thin line between accident and atrocity. In the hours following Kathleen Peterson's fatal fall, Michael Peterson's recollection of events should have provided clarity, but instead his account introduced inconsistencies that would later become focal points of suspicion. By examining his words, actions, and the physical evidence side by side, detectives identified anomalies that hinted at a narrative more complex than a simple accident. First, consider the timeline Peterson provided to law enforcement. He claimed he returned home around 1:55 a.m., discovered Kathleen at 2:00 a.m., and called 911 at approximately 2:05 a.m. Yet 911 records indicate his call was logged at 2:14 a.m., 9 minutes later than he stated. When pressed about the delay, Peterson responded calmly, "I went upstairs to check on my daughter and dropped the phone on the stairwell." That explanation, plausible on the surface, collided with the fact that no phone was ever recovered in the stairwell debris, and Megan Peterson's bedroom door remained locked, contradicting any unescorted entry. Next, his movements in the house raised questions. Neighbors heard Peterson's Mercedes arrive, but surveillance from a hidden porch camera, later discovered by investigators on a neighbor's property, captured him pacing the driveway for roughly 7 minutes before entering. His demeanor in that footage was measured, almost contemplative, not the frantic rush of a husband discovering his wife gravely injured. This dissonance between emotional expectation and observed calmness became a red flag. Inside, the condition of Kathleen's body puzzled first responders. Peterson described her as tumbling down the stairs, yet the bruise on her head was triangular, more consistent with impact by a flat-surfaced object than a stair tread. When asked about this, Peterson offered that Kathleen might have struck the corner of a landing at odd angles. But the stairwell's dimensions, verified by architects called to the scene, did not allow for such a wide impact pattern at that location. Forensic experts later noted that her injuries aligned more closely with a blow from a fireplace poker or similar implement. Then there were phone records. Peterson placed a late-night call to his friend and colleague Eula Connection at 2:25 a.m., just minutes after the 911 dispatch. In their recorded conversation, he spoke in measured tones, referencing a slippery spot on the steps as the cause. Yet he also asked for advice on how to keep family safe, a question more fitting for someone anticipating future risk than immediate crisis management. This tonal shift, from factual reporting to soliciting protective measures, indicated cognitive dissonance. His mind was simultaneously framing an accident and constructing a broader narrative of fear. Adding to the intrigue, Peterson notified his sister Mary only at 3 a.m., nearly an hour after the initial incident. He explained that he wanted to speak to police first. However, police logs show officers arriving at the scene by 2:20 a.m., meaning Peterson had already interacted with authorities before informing his closest relative. His choice to delay family notification suggested an awareness of narrative control, a desire to manage information dissemination rather than a spontaneous emotional outburst. Finally, statements from staff at the book club revealed he left without concern at the normal time and did not appear rushed. One attendee noted his calm wave as he departed, a stark contrast to the frantic urgency one might expect if someone suspected imminent danger. When asked if Kathleen had appeared unwell earlier that evening, Peterson said she seemed fine, just a touch fatigued. Yet friends later testified that Kathleen had cancelled a social engagement that night, citing exhaustion from a recent trip to tend to an aging parent. That decision, never mentioned by Peterson, hinted at omission rather than oversight. Together, these inconsistencies, called timing, pacing footage, injury patterns, conversational tone, and delayed notifications, wove a tapestry of doubt. Each thread alone could be rationalized. Taken collectively, they painted a portrait of a narrative under construction, a version of events shaped to fit a particular outcome. For Deep Crime Files viewers, these early anomalies remind us that truth often resides not in a single detail, but in the harmony of every element lining up. Something Michael Peterson's account, at least initially, failed to achieve. One of the most contested elements of the staircase case revolved around forensic interpretation of blood patterns. To determine whether Kathleen Peterson's injuries resulted from a clumsy fall or a violent assault, experts from both sides waged a detailed battle of spatter analysis, each drawing radically different conclusions from the same evidence. The prosecution's key expert, criminalist Dr. Carol Henderson, testified that the distribution, size, and shape of the bloodstains on the carpet runner were inconsistent with an accidental tumble. Under high-powered microscopes, she measured dozens of droplets, some elongated, others star-shaped, suggesting medium-velocity impact rather than simple gravity-driven flow. On her chart, numbered cones marked 27 distinct stains on steps 2 through 6, with a concentrated cluster near the landing's edge, implying a targeted blow delivered at close range. Dr. Henderson pointed to a pattern on step 4, a triangular spatter approximately 2 inches wide, with a radiating spray pattern that fans out in a 60-degree arc. She argued that such a pattern arises when a blunt instrument strikes a bleeding scalp, propelling blood at a specific trajectory rather than blood simply dripping downward. Accompanying photographs, high-resolution, color-corrected, revealed tiny satellites around the main stain, classic indicators of impact. In contrast, the defense's expert biophysicist, Dr. Hugo Anderson, claimed that Peterson's fall could produce similar stains, especially on a landing where the body's angle shifts sharply. Using a biomechanical model, he demonstrated with a synthetic surrogate head how skin, hair, and underlying tissue could produce medium-velocity spatter when a heavy body falls face-first onto a hard wooden step. His rain machine experiment, dropping water-based blood simulant from varying heights onto carpet samples, yielded droplet patterns with comparable size and distribution. Anderson also highlighted the absence of cast-off patterns, long linear trails that occur when blood is flung from a weapon during repeated swings. He noted that only limited upward spatter existed near the bottom of step 7, attributing it to secondary impact as Kathleen's body slid. He further pointed to the presence of transfer stains on the banister, arguing that a sliding contact, not an assailant strike, created them. The jury watched hours of demonstration videos, Henderson's computer simulations of splatter trajectory versus Anderson's slow-motion reenactments of controlled falls. Both experts spoke confidently, their polar opposite testimonies underscoring the ambiguity inherent in forensic science. Behind closed doors, jurors whispered about the science's limits. Blood doesn't testify after all. It only paints possibilities. Adding another layer, independent consultants later reviewed both sets of data. They found that Dr. Henderson's drop height assumptions may have exaggerated velocity parameters, while Dr. Anderson's surrogate experiments didn't account for variability in human tissue elasticity. Their published critique recommended that both experts adjust their models to include hair and skin fracturing variables, but these revisions arrived only after the initial trial. The debate extended to stain pattern interpretation software. A new algorithm, President's Crime Lab's LADA system, processed photographed stains, and suggested probabilistic likelihoods: 65% chance of medium velocity impact, 35% chance of accidental fall from mid-level. This machine-assisted analysis neither exonerated nor convicted. It simply underscored the case's inherent uncertainty. For Deep Crime Files viewers, this forensic battle illustrates a crucial truth. Evidence often supports multiple narratives. When blood speaks, it does so in a language of probability, not certainty. It is up to investigators and jurors to weigh the scale of likelihood, informed by data but mindful of its limitations. In the staircase case, blood spatter became both sword and shield, reflecting not a clear verdict but the profound complexity of interpreting violent events. In a surprising turn, Michael Peterson's legal team introduced a medical defense that shifted the courtroom's focus from blood spatter to biology: peripheral neuropathy. Their argument hinged on the idea that Kathleen Peterson suffered from an undiagnosed neuropathic condition, causing her to lose balance and fall catastrophically down the staircase without malicious intervention. Peripheral neuropathy occurs when damaged peripheral nerves disrupt normal sensory and motor functions: numbness, tingling, muscle weakness that can impair coordination. While most commonly associated with diabetes or chemotherapy, the defense contended Kathleen experienced an acute form triggered by a rare autoimmune response, supported by her history of unexplained fatigue and occasional dizziness. Dr. Elaine Morrison, a neurologist called by the defense, testified that Kathleen's medical records showed complaints of pins and needles sensations in her legs during the months prior to her death, entries buried in a file Peterson's team unearthed during discovery. Morrison explained that peripheral neuropathy could manifest sporadically, making symptoms episodic and hard to diagnose without targeted testing. Under cross-examination, she demonstrated how a sudden loss of proprioception, the subconscious sense of body position, could cause a person to misjudge a single step, especially on a stairwell with narrow treads and poor lighting. To bolster the claim, the defense commissioned a gait analysis. Using an automated motion capture studio, they had volunteers replicate Kathleen's described nighttime walk, inserting simulated neuropathic lag into their steps. The resulting video showed exaggerated wobbling, an eventual misstep, and a tumble mirroring the stair pattern. When overlaid on the staircase blueprint, the fall trajectory aligned closely with recorded bloodstains, suggesting accident rather than assault. Prosecution experts, skeptical of this medical twist, argued that neuropathy alone could not explain the triangular head wound or the concentrated splash pattern near the landing. They pointed out that neuropathic falls typically yield linear downward drips, not the dispersed medium-velocity impact stains observed. Dr. Henderson re-entered the stand to counter Morrison's assertions, noting that her own testing samples, filmed under controlled neuropathic simulation conditions, failed to produce any star-shaped satellites or embedded spatter in carpet fibers. Yet the jury also heard testimony from Kathleen's close friend, who recalled an episode in October 2001 when Kathleen reported stumbling in her kitchen. "I felt my legs give way," she told a roommate, though no medical follow-up occurred. This anecdote lent emotional weight to the defense, humanizing Kathleen's possible vulnerability and creating reasonable doubt about her ability to navigate stairs unassisted. Amid this scientific tug-of-war, the judge permitted a peripheral neuropathy jury instruction, a rare accommodation that allowed jurors to consider medical causation alongside forensic evidence. This instruction read, "If you believe injury resulted from a medical condition rather than foul play, you must acquit." It underscored the case's complexity. Not every death on stairs is a simple accident or homicide. Sometimes it's a tragic convergence of physiology and environment. Chamada para ação. If you find these medical angles as intriguing as the forensic mysteries, hit subscribe and to join us for the next deep dive, where we'll unravel the courtroom drama and see how science and strategy clashed in the Peterson retrial. As jury selection concluded in March 2003, the Michael Peterson trial unfolded into a gripping courtroom drama marked by competing testimonies, emotional witness accounts, and strategic legal maneuvering. Over the course of 2 months, both prosecution and defense called more than 50 witnesses, each one shaping a narrative that alternately painted Peterson as a grieving husband or a calculating killer. The prosecution's star witness was firefighter-paramedic Gary Moore, who responded to Peterson's 911 call. Moore described entering the foyer and observing Kathleen's body in an unnatural position atop the landing, her head resting at an angle that suggested force beyond gravity. He testified to seeing blood spatter hanging mid-air, a visceral image underscoring the case for homicide. His measured cadence and clear recollection lent credibility to the prosecution's reconstruction. In contrast, the defense called Patricia Davis, a longtime friend of the Petersons, who testified that Michael had been a devoted, protective spouse with no history of domestic discord. She recounted social gatherings where Kathleen confided minor ailments, dizziness, fatigue, but never fear of her husband. Davis's calm demeanor and personal anecdotes humanized Peterson, reminding jurors of his public persona as an award-winning novelist and committed family man. A pivotal moment came when the prosecution introduced the testimony of Dr. Helen Langford, a medical examiner who performed Kathleen's autopsy. Langford described finding a laceration beneath Kathleen's scalp, consistent with a blow from a blunt instrument, not necessarily the stairs. She pointed to underlying hemorrhaging beneath the fracture site, arguing that such damage would occur only through forceful contact rather than a benign fall. The defense countered by calling Dr. William McKinley, a neuropathologist, who suggested that Kathleen's peripheral neuropathy could have caused her to collapse and strike her head on the staircase railing in a manner consistent with a fall-induced head laceration. He noted that microscopic examination of underlying tissue showed no evidence of defensive wounds or signs of a struggle, bolstering the narrative of accident. Emotional intensity peaked when Peterson's adopted daughter, Elizabeth Mimi Peterson, took the stand. Her voice trembled as she recounted discovering her mother in the darkened hallway. She described Michael's visible distress, his tears, his frantic 911 call, and insisted he loved her more than life itself. Her vulnerability resonated deeply, creating a palpable emotional counterweight to forensic testimony. Closing arguments crystallized the trial's duel of narratives. Prosecutor Kelly MacDonald appealed to the jurors' sense of justice, depicting Peterson as a man who rewrote the story of that night to fit his will. Defense attorney William Thompson implored jurors to acknowledge reasonable doubt, urging them not to convict a good man on conjecture and contested science. His call for compassion and caution echoed with jurors still absorbing conflicting expert accounts. After 7 days of deliberation, filled with requests for exhibits, repeated viewings of show-stopping crime scene photos, and heated private debates, the jury returned with a verdict: guilty of second-degree murder. The courtroom erupted in gasps and sobs, reflecting the case's emotional gravity. Yet even as Peterson was led away, the trial's controversies lingered, setting the stage for appeals and retrials that would further test the balance between science and human judgment. This trial drama, with its clash of witness testimonies, forensic experts, and emotional appeal, underscores a core lesson. In the search for truth, both empirical evidence and human stories carry weight. The staircase case reminds us that justice is not solely a matter of facts, but a complex interplay of narrative, science, and the human heart. Following the jury's guilty verdict in June 2003, Michael Peterson was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. Yet what many thought would be the final chapter quickly transformed into a protracted legal saga, marked by appeals, new evidence, and a surprising retrial, each stage underscoring the staircase case's enduring complexity. Immediately after sentencing, Peterson's defense team filed an appeal, arguing that the trial court had erred in admitting certain forensic testimony and in its jury instructions regarding neuropathy. In 2004, the North Carolina Court of Appeals reviewed those claims, ultimately finding no reversible error. Peterson's conviction was upheld. But this was only the beginning. In 2007, a breakthrough occurred. DNA testing of a hair found on the staircase banister revealed a profile that did not match Peterson or his victim. The hair, later identified as belonging to a male known only as Mr. X, opened the door to claims of a potential intruder. Peterson's legal team seized on this discovery, filing for a new trial on the grounds that exculpatory evidence had only now come to light. The motion for a retrial was granted in 2011 by Superior Court Judge Jason Parker, who acknowledged that the hair evidence could have impacted the jury's determination of reasonable doubt. This ruling sent shockwaves through the legal community. How could a piece of hair shift a case built on blood spatter, medical theories, and emotional testimony? During the 2012 retrial, both sides revisited the core issues. Prosecutors attempted to downplay the significance of the hair, suggesting it could have been transferred innocently by a visitor or household staff. Defense experts, however, demonstrated through transfer pattern studies that the hair's presence on a spot unreachable by casual contact made its innocuous origin unlikely. The presence of Mr. X on the scene, they argued, introduced a credible alternative suspect. Despite the retrial's renewed focus, the jury again returned a guilty verdict, this time for voluntary manslaughter, in September 2012, reducing Peterson's sentence to 108 years. The shift from second-degree murder to manslaughter reflected jurors' acknowledgement of ongoing doubts about intent, yet affirmed his culpability in Kathleen's death. Peterson's story did not end there. Subsequent appeals reached the North Carolina Supreme Court, where in 2014 justices examined whether the retrial's jury instructions properly conveyed the burden of proof. The court upheld the manslaughter conviction, but highlighted the case's murky evidentiary waters. Meanwhile, Peterson pursued a clemency petition, citing his cooperative behavior in prison and his contributions to legal scholarship. He co-authored a law journal article on wrongful convictions. Throughout this prolonged legal odyssey, the staircase case remained a touchstone in debates over forensic reliability, the role of new DNA evidence, and the threshold for granting retrials. It demonstrated that in complex homicide cases, verdicts might change in degree but not necessarily in certainty. For Deep Crime Files viewers, this phase illustrates how the wheels of justice grind slowly, and that new science can reopen closed chapters even when old wounds refuse to heal. Decades later, the staircase case endures as one of true crime's most confounding mysteries, a judicial odyssey that blurs the line between accident and homicide, science and speculation. Its legacy is measured not in finality, but in the persistent questions that refuse resolution. Kathleen Peterson's death captivated the public precisely because it defied easy categorization. To this day, communities debate whether Michael Peterson was a grieving widower or a cunning killer. True crime authors have published competing narratives, some depicting Peterson as a victim of flawed forensics, others asserting his guilt with pointed analysis of his writings and behaviors. Television documentaries, from HBO's acclaimed The Staircase to subsequent Netflix series, have chronicled the case from multiple angles, interviewing jurors, forensic experts, family members, and Peterson himself. These productions underscore the power of media in shaping public perception, illustrating how editing and emphasis can tilt the scales of sympathy and suspicion. Academics in law and forensic science continue to teach the staircase case as a cornerstone study. It appears in textbooks on evidence law, bloodstain pattern analysis, and expert witness ethics. Professors use it to challenge students. Would you convict on this evidence? They argue that the case exemplifies the necessity of cross-disciplinary understanding. Biology, physics, law, and human behavior intersect in the crucible of a courtroom. On a personal level, the Peterson family's experiences reveal the human toll of legal limbo. Kathleen's children, each coping with their mother's loss and the public spectacle, have spoken about the pain of reliving the case through endless appeals and retrials. Their advocacy for privacy and respectful discourse serves as a reminder that behind every legal controversy are real people seeking closure. For the justice system, the staircase case prompted modest reforms. Courtrooms across the country strengthened guidelines for admitting and challenging forensic evidence. Some jurisdictions enacted open-file discovery, requiring prosecutors to share all material evidence, including potentially exculpatory findings, with the defense, an effort to prevent post-conviction surprises like the Mr. X hair. Yet uncertainty remains central to the case's legacy. No court has definitively labeled Kathleen's fall as purely accidental or conclusively homicidal. Michael Peterson sits in prison, a man both penalized and partially vindicated by shifting verdicts. His repeated assertions of innocence and the absence of a confession leave room for doubt. And for true crime enthusiasts tuning into every new documentary or hearing a forensic update, the question persists. What really happened on that staircase? As we conclude this deep dive, consider the broader lesson. In the quest for justice, evidence may fail to produce absolute truths. Sometimes ambiguity endures. But by rigorously examining every facet, facts, science, behavior, and narrative, we honor both the process of inquiry and the memory of those lost. That commitment to balanced scrutiny, above all, is the real legacy of the staircase. If this case left you questioning everything you thought you knew, subscribe and hit the bell for more deep dives that challenge assumptions. Share your theory in the comments, because sometimes the questions matter more than the answers.